Hello and welcome to Yavapai Speaks. Now, when I shared with you on our first show that Yavapai Speaks will be discussing all sorts of matters in Yavapai County and northern Arizona, and then also Arizona. Maybe I should have called it something else, but we're focusing on Yavapai County, which is, for those of you back east, north of Phoenix, about an hour in the Prescott area, but we also have Sedona, Cottonwood, Baghdad, and a number of other things. So we're really focusing on Yavapai County. But with that, there's some really fascinating folks, and you're about to meet one that I'm really, truly taken by. His name is Geronimo Martin. The name's not made up. He comes from Geronimo, the Apache lineage, and you're about to find out some things. So Geronimo, thank you so much for taking time and being with us. He does get to go out and speak everywhere. People are asking him, come speak to our group, come here. So thank you for taking time.
Yeah. Well, thanks to the state of Arizona, because I do a lot of work for the state of Arizona, for school kids.
Yeah, and, you do. You teach
yes, I do.
About the Apache heritage, your heritage, and things in nature and things in general.
And most important, I do point out the fallacies that have been printed. Yeah. Give you a quick example. Chief, he was never a chief, even though you'll see it in different places in writing that Chief Geronimo, he was never a chief. So he was a warrior, he was a war council member, but mainly he was a shaman, which is a medicine man.
Medicine man. Well, we're going to find out more about this. Doesn't his dress look great, his outfit? It's not made up, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to get into that in a few minutes here, okay? He doesn't go around doing this just to draw attention. This is part of his heritage, and you're about to find out a very fascinating heritage here. Lives right here in Yavapai County, and that's really why I wanted to start this show, because there's individuals who have rich backgrounds who are contributing to our society, and they're really going unnoticed, and I wanted to bring them forward. So you're about to find out some really interesting things. His wife has written a phenomenal book. It's called Lina Tuha in Apache, and what that means is, now I'm going to be corrected here. Watch, he's going to correct me on my own show. Everybody else does too.
That's right. Go ahead. Go for it. Give it a shot.
Go for it. But in Apache, it means bright light. Almost the bright
sunlight.
Sunlight.
Okay. Let me go ahead and help you with this. Okay, the darkness of night, and then you have the dawn, which means it's no longer pitch dark, but you can kind of start seeing things. But what you're waiting on is that first true light, which is the sunlight from it itself. And through the peaks of the mountains, when that first ray of sunlight comes through, that ray of light is Lina Tuha, and that's what my grandmother was named.
Well, this is a fascinating book that his wife wrote. I'm not going to give it away, but we're going to put it up on the site today, and you can order it directly. And you might even ask Geronimo to come and speak, and or his wife to come and speak about this. The story is fascinating. I don't want to give it away. You
don't have to give it away, but let me put it to you this way.
Yeah.
It's gotten awards. My wife has been accepted into the Western Writers Guild. Because of this book. There are so far 15 people who have written a review, and all those reviews are 5 stars thus far. So you'll see that on Amazon. Yes.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, here it is. I wanted to put this up as a courtesy to his wife, who's really fantastic, but also to Geronimo. Now, Jerry, making up the name Geronimo is really not made up. It's not something you decided, I'm going to do this and dress as an Indian. This is your heritage.
It is. He is my great-great-grandfather.
Yeah.
And the name Geronimo is a Spanish name. It's not even an Indian name.
No, that I didn't know.
It is pronounced Geronimo.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes, it is. And but he had 3 full names in his lifetime. He had his baby name, which means he who yawns. And then he was named by Cochise after his 4th successful raid. And he named him Goyathle, which means the one who is wise, or the wise one. Okay. And then he took on the name Geronimo during a battle down in Mexico.
Son of a gun.
Yeah.
Isn't this fascinating already? I'm sitting here going, okay, just start talking. Before we go down that road, and I want to, because I really think, and this is me, I really think First Nation people have not been properly respected and given the place of honor they should be. I don't review them. I don't view them as Indians. I view them as First Nation folks, and I was very fortunate to be taught by some chiefs and other leaders in several tribes about how this has been overlooked. And I have learned several years ago, and I have waited several years for the opportunity to meet someone like Geronimo, and to invite them onto a show so we can open the door and talk about truly what has gone on, not what's been made up. And I met Geronimo, I don't know, several months ago, 6-9 months ago, and was fascinated. We sat and talked, and I said, I want to have you on my show, and we got to do it here. So I'm very excited about this. Now, before we go down that road, and I can't wait, I'm really anxious, just so you know, this gentleman doesn't talk about these things. Very unpretentious, but he served in the Marine Corps. He was a Navy corpsman. He won a Bronze Star with V for Valor, Purple Heart, and other recognitions, other awards, and served in Vietnam for 4 years. So I would like you, and I know this may be difficult because you don't strike me as somebody who talks about these things, but I'd like you to take a chance. I'd like you to tell us, you served for 4 years. That was difficult. It had to change some things in your life.
Yeah.
It had to change you in some ways.
Oh, definitely. And I still carry those scars that don't appear. I was always very reluctant to look at the VA for assistance or anything, because at least I felt in my mind that I came back with all my limbs. I didn't come back all scarred up. But what goes on the inside, one of the first things that I learned was that I was thrown into a world that was a nightmare, and I couldn't wake up from and couldn't get away from. And thank goodness that we did have some leaves and stuff. But 4 years, and I happened to be assigned to one of the toughest units there in Vietnam, and that was the 1-9, who are known as the Walking Dead.
The Walking Dead.
And the Walking Dead got their reputation because there was a bounty on the Walking Dead. The president didn't like what was being done by the 1-9, and so he put a bounty on us.
Well, you're talking about the president of
North Vietnam.
North Vietnam.
North Vietnam, right. And so he had made a remark that you are no more than the Walking Dead as far as I'm concerned. Well, we took that Walking Dead, and that's where they came up with the emblem with the skeleton and the sickle and everything, So, and yes, we were constantly being replenished because we were losing men right and left. And if you look at the history of Vietnam, you will see that the 1-9 suffered the most casualties of any unit that was there in Vietnam.
Have you been able to meet some of your former colleagues and fellow soldiers?
Fortunately, yes. In fact, it wasn't that long ago that in Victorville, California, with the Marine Corps there, I was at a luncheon, and I had an individual come tap me on the shoulder, and he says, "Geronimo." And I says, "Yeah." And he says, "Chief." I says, "Yeah," because that was one of the two things that I was always referred to. And he stood across from me. He said, "I've waited almost a full lifetime to say thank you." And I said, "For what?" He said, "I yelled out, 'I'm hit.' I was on the ground." He said, "I tipped my head backwards, and I heard you yell out, 'I'm on my way.' And he said, I seen you going zigzagging." And he said, "And what happened next was I passed out." He said, "When I came to, I was in the hospital room, and I had come conscious, and the doc said, 'You're in good hands now.' And he said, 'When you ever get a chance, you better thank that medic who took care of you.' He said, 'One silly centimeter away,' he said, 'and there was no way I would have been able to save your leg.' He said, 'But he did a fantastic job on you.' And he said, 'I have always wanted to say thank you.'" Well, needless to say, I'm in tears, he's in tears, and we did stand up and give a manly hug to each other. Yes.
No, that makes sense. Up here in Yavapai County, there are a number of former military.
Over
Have you noticed that?
in Camp Verde alone, we have something like 1,400.
Oh, no way. I didn't
Yes,
know that.
veterans. Yes,
I did not know.
yeah. Well, I just found that out from my advocate, who is retired now, and she is a nice woman. She's Lakota.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, looking out for the interests of all veterans, but she took a special interest in those that are of the native,
Lakota tribe.
Yeah,
Oh, my gosh. 1,400. And then up here in Prescott, there's a fair number of former military.
Yeah, you bet. And not only that, Prescott holds our VA hospital.
The VA hospital.
Yeah,
that's right. Yes, sir.
And that's where I get my service from, yeah.
So do you get to bump into a number of...
Off and on. Yes, I do. Off and on.
Yay.
Yeah.
And you get to shake hands and share.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that's really great. Well, thank you for your service. I knew you were in the Marine Corps, but I did not know you had served 4 years in Vietnam.
Yeah, 65 to 69.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And you're right. That was life-changing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
A lot of I've been able to talk to a lot of vets, and you're right. It was life-changing for them in many ways.
And what's a little different now is that I do not have my service dog with me, but I do have a PTS dog for me, and I do attend my workshops with the VA on my PTSD. So,
bless your heart.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm diving into this.
Okay.
And I'm sure you'll correct me on my show. Isn't that something, folks? I mean, I get all these people on my show and they correct me. I don't understand it. I think they talk amongst themselves. Geronimo, it's real. It's your lineage. You're not making this up. No. You're not dressed up to play a game or anything. Tell us more about your family.
Okay, to start with, my mother at the age of 12 left San Carlos Reservation because she contracted tuberculosis.
Oh.
They moved her to Boulder, Colorado, to the sanctuary there. My grandmother remained on the reservation. Now, my mother's mother passed away, giving birth to the baby sister. And when my mother was only like 5, 6 years old, she was jumping on the bed and catapulted her little baby sister off into the hot stove, which killed the baby instantly. And then she had sisters, like I said, and then they kind of came on her like she did it intentionally, but there was no malice intended. She was only 5 or 6 years old, She was just playing on the bed. But when she wound up in trouble with me, my father was also a Native American, but he was Aztec and Lipan Apache. And so when my mom became pregnant, she couldn't turn to my father for assistance because he was on staff there at the hospital. Yeah. And she was only 17. He was 23 and also married. Had a wife in San Antonio, Texas, with a 2-year-old son already, which means I already got a 2-year-old brother, okay? So nothing was going to happen then. So she had to get help, and that help came from Lena Tuha, my great-grandmother. And she came because her mother couldn't help her. And the hospital says, we'll deliver the baby, since you won't give up the baby. We'll deliver the baby, but you're going to have to find a way to have care for that child.
Right.
Because we're a hospital. We can do that part, but we don't have a nursery here, so that ain't going to happen. So my great-grandmother left. She paid her way to come and supposed to be on a sabbatical and supposed to return after she gets her business taken care of. I came as premature, really premature. And so they called her when she was living there in Denver. She traveled all the way, thanks that she was living by the monastery, Catholic monastery. And they told her what was going on, and they also gave her transportation to Boulder, where she got to meet her new grandson,
Right.
And that's where I got my name Geronimo, because she insisted that I would carry on the lineage of my great-great-grandfather. And believe this or not, her mother, my mother's mother, her name was Geronimo.
Geronimo.
Yes. So
now your birth certificate, you told me this was handwritten.
Yeah, and it's on there. Yeah, I've got a copy of it.
No, we believe you. We believe you. But What a rich heritage coming from Geronimo, the lineage. And you correct, I mean this, correct me. And he was not a chief. And I did not know that until you said, I did. We all, how many of us think Geronimo was a chief? Chief Geronimo. We all, that's how we've been told. That's fascinating, Jerry, that you told us that. So the Geronimo lineage is true. You're part of that lineage. He was your great-great-grandfather. Did you, this may be odd, but did you ever get to meet him?
No.
Okay.
But what I did is I had, like I said, my grandmother took me at birth, living in Denver. She taught me the ways of the people, our people, which Apache means the people.
Yes.
If you're in the inner circle of the Apaches, if you're on the outer circle of the Apaches, the word Apache means the enemy. Yeah. And anyway, she taught me everything there was to know. Of course, as a kid and small, the only things that I was most interested in was those war stories, those fascinating battles, when it came to who was related to who and so forth, so on. Boring.
Now, have you been, you've been to the San Carlos reservation?
Yes, I have.
Ladies and gentlemen, Arizona has a number of reservations, a number of tribes, families and tribes all over from northern Arizona.
21 or 22.
21 or 22 tribes out here. And that's another show. That's fascinating. They're sovereign. Each tribe is sovereign. If you look at the big Navajo Nation, Hopi Nation, Apache, I would just name names. They're each sovereign. And that's a fascinating show. Maybe we should do that one day. Talk to people about the 21 tribes out here and how they're each sovereign and how they have evolved. And some have come close to extinction for one reason or another. But anyway, so you've been to San Carlos.
Yes, I have.
And how about down south, down in Cochise County? Isn't that fascinating?
Cochise County,
yeah.
And you had
named after
Cochise Stronghold. Is in that area. I keep being called back to Tombstone. Tombstone, since this book came out, we do the book or the autographing, the signing of everything. Well, that only took one time. Now I'm an item. Geronimo was going to be here to take your photo shots with and to sign any books, etc. So,
but it's a real Tombstone is real. I mean, you hear about Wyatt Earp and all, but it's real. Tombstone, Arizona,
and I get to. I mingle among their relatives as well. Yeah.
So you've been down to where your great-great-grandfather.
His stomping ground.
His stomping. Let's do it that way. Stomping, because he was all over the mountains
But that was his main stomping grounds. Was in the Cochise stronghold area.
Okay.
North of Tombstone. There, that south eastern portion. Controlled all of the Sierra Madres all the way to Chihuahua on the other side of the border.
I was going to say Chief Geronimo because that's how I was taught. I know. Is it okay to say Geronimo if I just say
Geronimo? Okay.
Was Geronimo? Did he have a large accompaniment of Indians with him, fellow? Apache?
At the end, he did. What had happened was that he had been on the reservation a total of 5 times.
Yeah.
I found that out recently because I was only aware of 3. My grandmother only told me about the 3 times that he'd been on the reservation and then left the reservation and what the 3 events that occurred to make him say, I don't need this, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
The final time that he did leave, he took over 600 individuals off of the reservation with him. And that was the beginning of a 30-year war, a campaign. Yes, 30 years. Yeah.
We want to get into that on another show.
Another show, you got it.
Because that's rich in our history, especially Arizona, New Mexico, I think, history, wouldn't it? It's rich about how Arizona, the state of Arizona, state of New Mexico, came about because you're right, 600 warriors.
Warriors, yeah.
It was...
and their families.
But 600 warriors that were fighting. Yeah. It was huge, and that's good history. So we'll do that.
Yeah,
it's fascinating. With what time we have left, what would you say is one, maybe 2 of the largest misperceptions that we have about our First Nation people?
The First Nation people, I think it hits a real sore spot on most indigenous individuals about the way their history is written. And even Geronimo said this himself, that when he complained to the white man about what was being done wrong against him or his people, it fell on deaf ears. But when it was the other way around, immediate justice was about to be dispersed immediately, you know. But as he put it, the one who wins has the right to write the history. The one that loses only has to remain to make those corrections.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
Yeah.
It's been my experience, and it's okay if I got this wrong, please correct me. It's been my experience that many, it doesn't matter the tribe, many First Nation males have gone and served this nation in the military.
Absolutely. In fact, in Washington, D.C., in 2020, well, actually, it was 2019, it was completed, and that was the monument for Native Americans that served in the military. And it was Donald Trump that put that in place.
Yes. And they really have. I mean, not just Apache, not Navajo. We have the Navajo Code Talkers, who I met several of them years ago, and they had fascinating stories.
Oh, yeah.
And they wouldn't talk at first. I had to earn some trust. I'm being very honest. They wouldn't talk. All these years later, they wouldn't talk.
Another fascinating thing you brought about the language. The language of the Chiricahua Apaches versus the Navajo are one of the same, just with very few variations. And yet, the Navajo say there's no relationship to the Apaches. The Apaches will tell you there's no relationship to the Navajos. But why are you using the same language? Excuse me.
I don't have a comeback. You're right. It's fascinating. And it's like the Hopi and the Navajo try not to get along, and yet they have so many common interests and things that they need to get along with. So you're right. It's one of those funny things that makes no sense.
And they were neighbors. I mean, come on.
Exactly. In the last couple of minutes, what would you say to an audience about our First Nation people that maybe we don't understand, we've never been taught, maybe we've been taught so poorly, so incorrect? What would you say? How?
Okay, to be honest, the first thing I would say is I think it was a travesty that we had our reservations. First, they tried to, and what I mean by they tried to, the one that actually did the most damage was on the $20 bill. You know that Andrew Jackson guy?
Yeah.
Well, he was president at the time, and he came up with the Indian Removal Act.
Yes.
He was also an entrepreneur for land grabbing, okay? He got real upset with the fact that when they had the Oklahoma land rush, he was going like, we can't be giving that land away. We should obtain that land and sell it. Yeah, he did all of that, but you know how what he did? He pocketed the money. That money that for that land never went into the treasury of the United States government. It went into his personal account.
Okay.
And he is also the one who is most responsible for the Trail of Tears. And another thing on the Trail of Tears is that Mr. Jackson was a slave owner, but within the Trail of Tears, 1/4 of the indigenous, there was 1/4 black slaves that were in that mix as well.
Oh, son of a gun.
And most people don't even make that knowledge of that.
Well, I'm pressing you. You're going to come back. I'm pulling on you, and we need to hear some more history and take a look at what we've been taught that's incorrect, and get it looked at from a different standpoint. Okay. And I thank you for doing that. I don't sense in you any animosity.
No, none.
I don't. And I don't sense any movement.
No, I'm not part of AIM.
No, I don't sense that. But I am so thankful that I got to meet you many months ago. And we're going to follow up on this because I think there's a lot of history that we just don't know. So thank you, Geronimo, for coming on. My special guest, as you've heard, has been Geronimo Martin, but it's Geronimo, and it's not made up. It's not some theatrical thing. He comes from that lineage, that bloodline. He has a phenomenal ability to share with students and with all sorts of people, and he's out all over the place talking history, talking lineage, and it's fascinating. So I'm very grateful that I'm getting the opportunity, the privilege to meet very fascinating people like this. So on behalf of Geronimo, I'm Lyle Rapacki, and that's how we see things from Yavapai today.